Hello everyone, we hope you're all doing beautifully well. For today's valued viewer discussion, we've got from Roll a Dice. Do you guys remember dice games? Did anyone here ever play Warhammer 40k or Warhammer? Bloody millennials, you must remember it, Obi, you're a nerd.
I remember it, but I think I may have played Warhammer 40k. Was that the one that was like a bit like Command and Conquer?
Oh god, I'm old enough to remember it when it was on actual.
Yay, skill.
No,
lead figures. Lead figures,
yeah.
then became plastic.
No, I wasn't one of those people.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Right, yeah, neither was I, honest. Right, anyway, I apologise for that. Great vid on whatever that was relevant to. By the way, what are your comments on this analysis of the J-20 of China? And we've got a video here, and we can watch that video later if you want. And that goes to show someone's analysis of the J-20, and it's under some cover. As in physical, they've put covers on it. And their idea is that, well, if it can have covers on it, then it can't have a stealth coating like the Raptor does, like the Packfire does. But I thought, you know what, this is absolutely pointless me trying to judge this because I know nothing about a J-20. So this video is going to be learning, a discussion between my valued humans and learning about the J-20. Say hello, valued humans that I have in the room.
Howdy.
Hello.
There you go, they almost sound like they're trying to stay alive. What we're going to do is go through a small Grim Reaper's presentation of the J-20 so we can learn about it, and then we're going to chat about it, guys. So, my understanding, which is very little as ever, of the Chengdu J-20 Mighty Dragon is that it is the Chinese version, if you like, of their 5th gen aircraft, 5th gen fighter. You've got the F-22 Raptor, of course, and the Americans. We've got the F-35, the Lightning. We've got the what's become the Su-57, isn't it, guys? What I'd call a Packfire, but Su-57, I think, and the Russians. And this is going to be the Chinese version. Does anyone have a problem with that or think I'm wrong with that? That's my understanding.
Nope.
I mean, these planes are impressive. All of the ones I mentioned are impressive. They're not the kind of things I'm really into because, as you know, I just don't like stuff this modern. But I must admit, looking at this picture of the Mighty Dragon, it looks incredibly impressive. First of all, size-wise, giant compared to anything else. And secondly, just impressive. And another thing that I really like about what the Chinese are doing is they're just, as far as I can see, going their own way. J-10 looks nothing like anything else. J-20, I mean, what does that look like? Nothing, right? I mean, I know technically the front nose is Raptor-ish, but all of the 5th gen have got the same nose. Wings doesn't look like anything-ish in terms of the layout. The J-20 is the world's 3rd operational 5th generation stealth fighter aircraft after the F-22 and the F-35. The J-20 made its maiden flight in 11 January 2011 and was officially revealed at the 2006... Wow, it's really new, isn't it? Maiden flight 9 years ago. Wowza. At the 2016 China International Aviation and Aerospace Exhibition, the aircraft entered service in March 2007, so 3 years in service. Wow. And began its combat training phase in September 2017. The first J-20 combat unit was formed in Feb just 2 years ago. Wow. Lots of wows we're going to go for this. And one thing I should say as well, I bet because of Chinese doctrine, I bet this is going to be really hard to get information about. I bet we're going to find out today. Design. The J-20 has a long and wide fuselage with a chiseled nose section and a frameless canopy. Oh, it does. Look at that. Immediately behind the cockpit are low observable intakes, all moving canard surfaces with pronounced dihedral. Dihedral, is it up or down? I always forget. Are placed behind the intakes, following by leading edge extensions merging into the delta wing with forward swept trailing edges. The aft section has twin outboard canted all moving fins. Cool, so like the SR-71, right? And other planes. Short but deep ventral strakes and conventional round engine exhausts. One important design criterion for the J-20 is high instability. Leading edge extensions and body lift are incorporated to enhance performance in a canard layout. The combination is said by the designer to generate 1.2 times the lift of an ordinary canard delta and 1.8 times more lift than an equivalently sized pure delta configuration. The aircraft features a glass cockpit with one primary large colour liquid crystal display touchscreen. 3 smaller auxiliary displays and a wide angle holographic heads-up display. The size of the primary LCD screen is 24 by 9. Wow, that's massive. That's 2 feet. 26 inches by the diagonal with 2 systems for redundant illumination. The main weapon bay is capable of housing both short and long-range air-to-air missiles. We've got AAM, PL-9, PL-12CD, PL-15, PL-21. Great, don't know any of them. While the two smaller lateral weapons bay behind the air inlets are intended for short-range air-to-air missiles, the PL-10. These side bays allow closure of bay doors prior to firing the missile, thus allowing the missile to be fired in the shortest time possible, as well as enhancing stealth. The J-20 is reported to lack an internal autocannon or rotary cannon, suggesting the aircraft is not intended to be used in short-range dogfighting engagements with other aircraft, but engagement from long standoff ranges with missiles such as the PL-15 and 21. While the fighter typically carries weapons internally, the wings include 4 hardpoints to extend varying range by carrying auxiliary fuel tanks. So most of those features we've talked about are very similar to, say, the Raptor, right? They've got the missiles in a similar type bays. By the sounds of things, they can have hard points for fuel tanks or whatever. So let's have a look at general characteristics, and I thought we'd just compare it with the F-22 Raptor, because I find looking at these statistics, it doesn't really mean anything unless you've got a known quantity to compare it against. So it's going to be a crew of 1 with a kind of mad glass cockpit by the sounds of it. Let's have a look at the length. 67 feet as compared to the Raptor of 62 feet. Okay, it's not actually as big as I thought, but wingspan is 44 feet, same as the Raptor. Okay, it's, wing area is 800, although it's hard to measure what actually is wing area, but 840 square feet as opposed to, exactly the same as the Raptor. How interesting. Empty weight is just under 20 metric tons. Empty weight is just under 20. Everything is identical to the Raptor. What the heck? Gross weight is 32 metric tons. Gross weight of the Raptor, 29.5 tons. Max takeoff weight, 37 tons. Raptor, 38 tons. Fuel capacity. I mean pounds, because we're used to working in pounds for fuel. 25,000 pounds internally. So if you have an F-15C, which carries all the fuel in the world, with 3 of the biggest fuel tanks known to man externally mounted, that carries 25,000 pounds. This can carry it 25,000 pounds internally. Does that just blow everyone's face off? Because it does with me. That's absolutely ridiculous. Fuel capacity internally for the Raptor is 18,000 pounds. I mean, even that is a bloody lot. Or 26 with fuel tanks. Power plant. 2 times Saturn AL30. Now, the Saturn AL31s are flanker engines. Obviously, these are going to be upgraded units of some sort. Afterburning turbofan. I need a static power for it to mean something. So, as far as I can see, static power with afterburner, it's going to be 33,000 pounds. I'm guessing that's each, which is a vast amount. Oh, God, what's this? Later airframes are equipped with the all-new Xi'an WS-15 of 41,000. It's just getting stupid, because even the F-15s flying around today at my lake in Heath have only got 25, or even some of them less than 25,000 pounds of an engine. And this has got 33. Almost unbelievable. That's as much as an entire F4 Phantom. Let's go and have a look at the Raptor. We've got Pratt & Whitney F111 P100 all-mounted turbofans of 20. So the Raptor is 26,000 pounds. Oh, it's 35,000 pounds. Jeez, I never knew they were that powerful. Okay, question. How on earth are these engines so powerful? That is ridiculous. 35,000 pounds with afterburner. And possibly up to 41, which will give it a mad, sick power-to-weight ratio if these are true, these Xi'an things. That's interesting. Stream Su-35 can carry 25k pounds of fuel internally. Can it? Because I thought it was the same body frame as the Su-27. The 27 can carry 20k pounds. Oh yeah, it can, can't it? Still a lot. And the F-35C can carry 19,000 pounds. Okay, but it's still the king, just about. Performance, for whatever it means, Mach 2, Mach 2.25 on the Raptor. So the Raptor can go, as far as we know, a little bit faster. And it's actually of some relevance as well, because maximum speed, as you guys all know, is pretty much meaningless in traditional aircraft, because as soon as you put external stores, then it can't do that speed. It can't do anywhere near that speed. These are going to carry, presumably, the majority of their stores internally. So these figures, actually, with the 5th gen aircraft, actually have some meaning, which is interesting. Range, 6,000 kilometers, 3,700 miles. Let's see if that has any That doesn't sound right. Or more. Well, apparently it can do exactly twice as much. More than twice as much. No, twice as much as the Raptor. I don't see why it would, because it hasn't got twice as much fuel. So I think we're going to have to take that with a pinch of salt. Also, it may mean a different type of range. I don't know. Combat range, 2,000 kilometers. Let's stick with kilometers. Combat range of the Raptor, 1,000 kilometers. Again, it's twice as much. Again, we don't know exactly what that means. What's it armed with? And so on. Service ceiling, for what it's worth, 66,000 feet. Raptor, 65,000 feet. G limits, +9, -3. Rate of climb, always a really interesting one I find, 60,000 feet per minute. Raptor, blast, I can't see it on the Raptor. Thrust to weight ratio, we've got 0.92, a 1.12 with loaded weight and 50% fuel, with the older, or the weaker of the engines. Raptor, 1.08, 1.25 with loaded weight. Oh, okay, it is actually measured kind of correctly in the same. So we've got 1.08 for the Raptor, 0.92, so less than 1 for this aircraft here, which is interesting. Armament, internal weapons base. So the problem is I haven't researched any of these missiles, so these mean nothing to me. PL-10 is short range, so that's going to be a type of modern Sidewinder, I'm guessing. PL-12 short range. PL-12 medium range, I'm going to guess, is like an AMRAAM C. Guys, does anyone remember what we have on the Thunder? Got like an LD-10, isn't it, or SD-10? Oh, it doesn't matter because they've got no, they're not Chinese designations, are they? Let me go and find out. PL-12 is the SD-10, similar to the AMRAAM C. Okay, so Sidewinder. We've got our SD-10 as we know it. If you're a DCS, see you later, Pritch. The BVR long-range air-to-air missile, the PL-15, I'm guessing is going to be the AMRAAM Delta. Operational range, 250 kilometers. Whoa! Pulsed solid propellant rocket. It's 100 and something miles, Mach 4. And a PL-21 long-range air-to-air missile. Let me guess, we don't get any information at all. Ramjet technology, but otherwise pretty much done. It's considered comparable to the AMRAAM AIM-120 AMRAAM. Again, guessing the D model, DARPA's triple Terminator T3, Europe's MBDA Meteor. Okay. LLS-6, we've got that in DCS. We know exactly what that is. External hardpoints, 4 times longer capable of drop tanks in case it needs to go really, really far. Avionics, we've got a active electronic slant array radar. We've got a electro-optical targeting system, so it's going to be the same as anything on a modern fighter, pretty much, a flanker or something like that. An infrared search and track. Does anyone know? I'll come back. Well, we'll come back to this. We need to find out what an infrared search and track is. It's not the same as electro-optical targeting system, apparently. And a distributed aperture system. Not the foggiest, but we'll come back. Status in production with established numbers built between 25 and 50 with a cost of $100 million. That's nothing. Right? That's like an F-16. Most of this information on the jet's abilities is just estimated as heavily classified, and some of the performance characteristics may be slightly different in real life. So it's the best guess that people can do. Okay, well, it's as cheap as a Eurofighter, but it's going to be more advanced than a Eurofighter, isn't it? Verdict. When the Chinese J-20 stealth fighter was revealed, speculation was rife about its role and mission upon entering service in the People's Liberation Air Force, Army Air Force. In the defense media, the most highly circulated and popular theory suggested that it was a dedicated interceptor aircraft intended to destroy force multipliers like tanker aircraft or early airborne warning, AWACSs and stuff, or a dedicated long-range strike aircraft akin to the modern F-111. However, other similarly sized stealth aircraft like the F-22 and the Su-57 are widely accepted to be air superiority fighters with secondary interceptor and strike roles. And even aircraft like the F-35 are intended to field serviceable air superiority characteristics. Some arguments backing up the J-20's interceptor/strike theory is doctrine-driven, suggesting the J-20 was intended to specifically operate in the PLA's so-called anti-access area denial strategy. Stealth characteristics are heavily debated, but it is not yet clear if the aircraft is capable of implementing stealth from all-around aspects or as rumoured mainly from the frontal section with 30-degree off-bore, which may explain the intended use of the jet as an interceptor. Much commentary initially suggested J-20's supposed length and its aerodynamic configuration made it poorly suited for aggressive air combat manoeuvring, ACM. Everything I've heard so far seems to indeed suggest that. J-20's supposed limited agility and kinematic properties would place firm limits on its rolls. Agility certainly does determine roll. However, the aerodynamic performance of a modern complex fighter aircraft cannot simply be eyeballed. Still, in the last couple of years, the jet performed some stunning aerobatics and displays at public events, suggesting that the airframe is far more capable than predicted. Aside from aerodynamics, it has been suggested the J-20 lacks agility because it's underpowered. The engine factor is arguably the more sensible of the two arguments, as it is universally accepted that the J-20 is currently using a derivative of the flanker engine, which is relatively underpowered for the aircraft of its weight class, but the introduction of the all-new Xi'an WS-15 power plant will boost the performance significantly, just like the initial production of the Su-57 with the interim powered engine option. Okay, makes sense. Because quite often, in fact almost every time in history, the aircraft has come out before its intended engine, right? It usually comes out several years afterwards. The overall body of evidence strongly suggests J-20 is intended to be a general air superiority aircraft capable of competitive ACM, but also able to perform well in BVR range as well. There are a few clear indications as to what future 5th gen versus 5th gen generation air battles may look like. Probably never happen. And it would be a bad decision for any air force to dismiss agility in such confrontations. Indeed, stealth versus stealth engagement, one could even make the case that equal advancements in stealth sensors, networking, electronic warfare, and weapons systems may end up cancelling out each other's side's advantages and cause beyond visual range engagements to transition into within visual ACM, where the importance of ACM is further elevated. Considering how long it took for the F-22 and F-35 programs to mature, we're yet to see what J-20 will perform and look like in a few years, but all indicated that it is a very capable platform. We've got a video link there. Okay, guys, I've been talking for a long time. We've talked about its statistics, or, as far as we can get, about the type of missiles, get a feel for the weapons it carries. Thoughts from you valued viewers? Send.
China number one.
China number one, Seahorse. China number one.
Grow larger.
Justify that.
Well, I mean, I suppose I could follow on from Seahorse and say, I wonder why they need this when the JF-17 is so good.
China doesn't run JF-17. It's only Pakistan runs it, doesn't it? China runs J-10 and J-20, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't have them. No, it was a joke.
Oh, very good. Oh, I get the jokes. Onslaught. Come on.
Meow.
I'm not allowed to make any kind of racial misconceptions, but tell us about the J-20.
Just so you know, I'm not from China.
I'm fully aware that you're not from China, but you are closer than me.
It's honestly, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen, it's relatively comparable to what was the Eurofighter? It's like a hybrid between the Eurofighter and the F-22. Obviously, the stealth systems and stuff like that. Hello.
Hello.
With the electro-optical targeting systems, which they obviously ripped off from the Russians. It borrows a lot of elements from multiple systems, so it is a full-featured 5th gen. In fact, I would say this is probably more than 5th gen. It's probably like a 5.5 gen fighter.
5.5 gen fighter. Justify that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just reading about infrared search and track. We know about all this. We already know about all this. Okay.
It's extremely advanced. I mean, a lot of things is still unknown. So we are just going off what has been found. But looking at what we know and what they already have in place in terms of the systems, it is a extremely well designed and a high performance advanced fighter for its time.
Anyone know what this distributed aperture system is? The F-35 has it, apparently. Electro-optical distributed aperture system, DAS, is the first of a generation of sensors being fielded in a Lockheed Martin, blah, 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 blah. It consists of 6 high-resolution infrared sensors mounted around the F-25's airframe in such a way as to provide unobstructed spherical coverage of the functions around the aircraft without any pilot input or aiming them. The DAS provides 3 basic categories of functions in every direction simultaneously: missile detection and tracking, like an MWS, including launch point detection and countermeasure queuing, aircraft detection and tracking, situational awareness, IRST, and air-to-air weapons queuing. How interesting! This is almost like an IRST that's scanning everywhere all the time, right?
Yeah, so instead of like in the old SU jets where it follows the helmet mounted sight, this basically just has it like everywhere around the plane, so it's like almost 360 degrees of optical detection.
I was unaware of the F-35 having this, so that's interesting. Wow. So it's got that. I wonder what it's called, distributed aperture system. You must be able to just call it IRST 360 or something. God, they're bad at making acronyms. Okay, so we know what this stuff is. Just reading a stream. Let's bring the stream in here. The aircraft is probably cheap to build because it reuses technology and the upgrades don't cost much. Sensors all round, pilot can look through the airframe, helmet mount display. Right. I get that. In F-55, you can literally see through the jet. It's very cool. It's magic. Very good, boys. Who wants to go next? Don't worry, you won't make a fool of yourself. No one can be more stupid than me.
Claim they have a missile that has an operational range of 250 kilometers.
Well, that's the small one. If you look at the long range one, the 21, that goes even further, I think. But it's one of the ramjet. It's like the ramjet AMRAAM, right? Oh, sorry, it's like the ramjet Meteor, right?
NATO doesn't claim it goes that far.
Okay, let's go and have a look. Let's go and have a look. Well, they do like to claim, the Chinese, don't they? Meteor missile. I've got the code.
Now they'll be made soon to your house before the evening's done.
We've got a Meteor here. Yikes! 2 million euros. Who can afford to fire a Meteor? Range excess of 100 kilometers. Oh, it goes much further than that. Doesn't it go like hundreds of miles? I completely got that wrong. 54 miles. No escape zone of 32 miles. I thought Meteor went longer, guys.
The maneuvering zone, I guess.
Throttle able ducted rocket brackets ramjet. That's an expensive missile. Let's see how far an AIM-120D can go, guys. It costs, again, neon $2 million. Wow, the C5 has 105 kilometers apparently. I had no idea. They fired those. They're the ones they've been firing from Turkey, aren't they? The DC-8 is 160 kilometers. So it reckons it's got a missile that goes 250 kilometers. So because the Chinese said it, we should probably say about 150 or something.
I would say, yeah, around 150 to 200 probably would be the best, best bet.
So how do these long-range missiles work then? Do you have to fire them at like 40,000+ feet to get them to go really far, or do they cruise like a harpoon, just cruise subsonically, and then I haven't studied them yet, so.
For the most part, most long-range missiles, they follow like the same trajectory, like the AIM-54 Phoenix, where it just lofts itself up into thinner atmosphere. That's where it can get its long-range capabilities.
Roger. Okay.
And then just duck down on the whatever target.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure that this max range thing is probably like against some kind of a static flying target that's probably just going straight or something.
Yeah, I mean, well, we all know how little. A bit like we were talking about top speed, at least of less than 50 an aircraft really means nothing. Just doesn't really mean anything at all. In the reality, again, weapon distance doesn't really mean anything. I mean, lots of people enter DCS. I get this message probably every day from people who are starting DCS. I read on Wikipedia they say that the AMRAAM-C can do, 60 miles, which of course it can in absolutely optimal conditions. But in the reality, everyday firing of the weapon, you're going to get, 15, 20 miles out of it if you're lucky, against a even against a non-maneuvering target. And they just don't understand that in these maximum range things don't really mean anything. other than against an idle scenario, which never actually happens in real life anyway. I've got some more questions here. Cap, the Chinese military is also developing another weapon known as the PL-21, which is believed to have a range of excess of 300 kilometers or 125 miles. And yes, we've got that here. The PL-21 is there. So it's apparently going to be their long-range weapon. Also, now here's the thing, guys. These weapons go further than the host's radar works. You can't lock a guy more than 50, 60 miles, or 9, maybe 80 miles. Unless it's a really big plane, which is not going to be. So these weapons are reliant on, and forgive me, I don't know the terminology yet, but other people's radars to guide them in, right? An AWACS radar or another fighter up at the front line, right?
Yeah.
And for one of the interviews, we got things like the AIM. I mean, this long range bunch of weapons: AIM-120D, Meteor, this PL-21, the Russian equivalent, and I can't remember what it is. People are saying the doctrine for using them is they're not going to be carried by the stealth fighters. They're going to be carried by the legacy fighters and just shot at long range from 100 miles away. And then they will be buddy guided in by the stealth fighters, like presumably this one we're looking at, but will be nearer to the target. And that's how they're actually going to be employed. That's our understanding of it.
Yeah, it's an active radar, so all the missile needs is some kind of like information from whatever other source of radar, probably from ground radar or AWACS or another fighter that actually picks up the target. And as long as the host plane that fires the missile is actually within like that specified range, it can fire and then just let the missile do its job.
Right. So the guy who fires this missile from 100 miles away can see the fight. He won't maybe have him on his own radar, or can't lock him on his own radar, but he'll be able to see them on the data link, which comes from AWACS or donors or whatever. And then, hang on, the Meteor missile can get info from. That's what I was thinking. They can use the data link to guide themselves in. So the information of the hostiles' whereabouts could come from various sources, right? Like you said, ground, AWACS, buddy fighters in the area, and whatnot, stealth fighters in the area. How interesting. It's got to be a pretty quick network, hasn't it, in that case?
Yeah, it just needs to guide itself into like the general area of where they detected the target. And once it's near enough, then the missile will just activate its own radar to search for the target.
Roger.
And again, not sure how super effective that can be, since the range where the missile needs to be before it can actually detect its target by itself. Yeah.
I mean, there are some limits. Things like the range at which you can detect and lock a bad guy hasn't really changed from about the 1950s, because although obviously radar filtering and processing has got better, the general fact is the power of radars hasn't really got any. If anything, they've actually got slightly weaker. So the distance at which you can lock a target, it was probably at the most in the 70s with the Tomcat, as far as I'm aware. So, sorry, I went off on a tangent there, and I can't remember what I was going to say. But yeah, so a question: this new range of missiles, guys, that we're talking about, the long-range missiles, the AMRAAM-D, the Meteor, can they use Link 16 for this guidance, or do they need new gen data link system? Does anyone know? And the other thing, guys, it's an interesting thing, and this may have been fixed by modern data link, but back in the day, we've just been interviewing an F-14 Rio, which was a really interesting interview, and it was cool and stuff having these lovely big AIM-54 Phoenixes that had, to be honest, ranges similar to what we're talking about now. Phoenixes, we've tested the simulated version, they can go 140 miles, probably even further, as far as these new ones, brand new ones that we're talking about. And these are 50 years old, well, 40 years old. The thing is, you could never actually get the ROE to use them, because you needed to get a VID on the target, because you needed to, all these various real-life ROEs. You never actually got to launch a Phoenix at anything, because there was never that lovely situation where you knew all the contacts on the scanner were going to be baddies. It just hasn't ever happened in a real conflict. Yeah, but I'm just talking about the concept of the missile was hopeless. You couldn't even use it because of doctrine, because of real life ROE. Literally, they said that you just, you can't risk shooting someone 80 miles away. It's too risky. I'm wondering if that's changed now with Link 16. Is Link 16 coalition detection so good that you don't have that threat anymore? I don't know. Obviously, I haven't got a clue. I don't know if anyone knows, but interesting question. We've kind of segued a bit, guys, but we've learnt a lot about the PL10, which we know now. The reason we didn't know it was because it uses a different name in Pakistan, and we use the Pakistan name. PL12 we know is the SC10, obviously, now. PL15 is new BVR long range, and the PL21 is the long range, and the LS6 we all know as well. We've learnt about the plane itself. Interesting thing was there was discussion down here talking about whether it is really stealthy, and is it only stealthy from a kind of frontal 30-degree quadrant, or is it stealthy all round like a Raptor? Don't know. I'm going to be the last person to know. And the original question was from this chap here.
Videos on this big for carelessly.
Yeah, there's a good stop there. He says that in China you've got these big things chucked over them, these big tarpaulins, but he says that you can't do that with a Raptor or a PAC-FAR, whatever you call it now, a 57, because it kills the stealth coating. So do these even have a stealth coating? Does anyone know anything about that or have any thoughts on that? I have not the foggiest.
I only know that shape does play into a factor, a part in how stealthy the plane is. So, but I'm not sure, like as what I said, whether or not that design probably it might lower the stealth capabilities a bit. But I guess if they are going ahead with it, it probably means that it's probably something that's negligible, I guess.
Any final thoughts on the J-20, the Mighty Dragon, which, if nothing else, looks friggin' awesome. I love how it looks. It looks like a transformer or something.
Well, I think it needs time to mature, so God knows what we will come up with in 10 years' time. So it's early to judge it, I think.
Is that Super Ivan?
Yeah.
Hello, Super Ivan. Yeah, fair point. Yep, fair point. None of these have obviously been used in any kind of combat.
It's a bit cheaper than the F-22, that's about it.
Yeah, it really is cheap, isn't it? Let's go and have a look. Raptors, I think they ended up about 200 million a piece. Take it with a pinch of salt, but about $350 million per plane ish. And again, take it with a pinch of salt, but this about $100 million. So a third of the cost, apparently, of an F-22. How could it do that? Not the foggiest. I mean, I don't know. Who knows?
Chinese labor.
Chinese labor, there you go. You can get exactly. Yeah, fine.
It could. I'd say it possibly has potential in the future. The future only has to tell us so far, really.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on the J-20, the Mighty Dragon, and we'll see what information we get. You guys, fellow viewers watching this video, will undoubtedly know a lot more about this than us, so let us know what you think, and I'll read the comments to roughen out.